Hello, everybody. Good morning. And I'm going to start a new series of videos, and I think it's useful to teach you the different part by creating an app. So the idea is that we're going to create a conversion app, and we will divide it into several parts. This conversion app is simple because what we're going to do is that, like if you're coming from the US sometimes or going to the US, you get confused between Fahrenheit and Celsius and kilometers and miles. So I'm going to create an app, call it my conversions, that does this, it converts from Fahrenheit to Celsius and Celsius to Fahrenheit and miles to kilometers and vice versa. And I thought it would be a good idea to break it into several parts. So we'll focus on the design first in the first video, and then we will talk about actions and outlet, which is how to connect components on the screens with the code. Then we will talk about the coding, making some code to do the calculation. And we'll talk about the inputs, the different type of keyboards and different type of inputs, all right? So that's what we're going to cover. So in the first part, we'll just do this part here. So let's go ahead and get started, okay? If we click on Xcode, and let's create a new app. Here, create a new Xcode project. We've talked about this before, and in most cases, we will start with a single view app. So we're gonna select a single view app. We talked about this last time, and we click on OK. I'm gonna call it my conversions. And again, just to remind you, this is your bundle identifier. This is what identifies your app when you publish it on the App Store, okay? You click on Next. I'm gonna save it in the same folder. And we're gonna leave all of this alone, okay? Well, eventually we will discuss these, but let's talk about two things here. We have this, because we're going to focus on the design. We have the launch screen, and then we have the main storyboard. We'll start with the launch screen. And the launch screen is the screen that gets executed first. I mean, when you first launch your application, this is the screen that it gets shown. So this is called a view controller. A view controller, it's made of views and a controller, as the name suggests. So the function of the controller is to manage these views that exist in it. So typically, a view controller would have at least one view, which is your, you want to call it root view. So in this part here, if you see if this is hidden in this part, you can click on this button here and show document outline, and it shows you all the components in this storyboard. And one of them is your view. The view is what you actually see. This is what the users see when you run the app. So you can change things like the color, you can change the background color, you can change the alpha, the transparency, you can do some animation, and you can add to it other views, all right? So what I'm going to do in the first part, we're gonna add, let me just move this around here so you can see. We're going to add in the object list here, and this, if this is not showing, you can click on this here. You can go down, and then you can see that you have labels, and then you have buttons. Labels are the things that, as the names appear, it's something that you show. So it's a text that you cannot edit. Okay, you can change its value inside the code, but you cannot edit. So I'm gonna add this label to my form. And we're gonna give it a title, right? And this title, instead of saying label, I'm gonna call it my conversions. Okay, and if you want to say app, you can say app just to show you. Now you notice this label size, this is a view, by the way, also, and it's the size of this label is small, so it cannot fit all of this. So what can you do? Well, we can make it bigger, and this is how you make it bigger, right? And you can change things like alignment. And then you can change the text fonts, for example. You can make it, there's different fonts. You can have custom fonts, and you can have these preset font styles, or you can use system. And the one that I use quite often is system, okay? And then, of course, you can change the size. As you change the size, sometimes, again, it gets bigger than the actual label size. So what I'm going to do, let me show you. I can make it bigger, and then I can make it this way. Well, we still have a problem because the font that we're using is quite big. So what can you do? What can we do to make it better? Of course, you can reduce the size. And you can do one more thing. Do you see this thing here, the number of lines? You can increase the number of lines for that label. It doesn't do it automatically. There is no text trap. You will have to do it manually or in the program. So now I can make this a little bigger, and then now I have 2 lines, okay? And another way to do it, if you don't know how many lines do you want, you can put always 0, and then that would expand as it needs it, okay? All right. The other part here, you can change, of course, the color of this label, okay? So this is, we can make it, all right, make it orange here. The text, we make it orange. And then white. Okay, why is this not doing it? All right, let's do it from here. Okay, let me close that. So I make it orange, and I'm going to make it also bold. Okay. Style, make it bold. All right. But what else can we do here? Now notice what happens is that you added a label on top of that view. Again, things go on top of the view. All right. So now this view, you can also do things with this view. You can do things like this. You can change the background color. Okay, and then you can, you can change the background color of this view. All right. So if you do this, for example, doesn't look good, right? You can use this color if you want. I'm not great with colors, but this is not bad. All right. And you can do things like with the view, you can select the view again, and then you can go to, again, we're doing it with the property. Make sure you click on the property. One of the things that you can change is alpha, and alpha is the transparency, all right? How transparent is this view? Okay, in most cases, it's usually set to 1. This is important, okay? All right, what else now? Well, we have different devices. This is how it looks on iPhone 7. Well, what if we select different device? This is iPhone SE. This is iPhone 5. This is iPhone 6, right? No, this is iPhone 7. This is iPhone 7, I guess. 7 and 6 are the same size. This is a tablet, all right? Well, this is a problem for us, right? Because what you can see that every time, if you run it on a different device, you're not getting the same look that you got before. You can always do it from here, okay? When you run it, when you test it, I'll show you here, you can test it on a different device. But this is as you design, you can predict how it's going to look on the different devices. So we have a problem. We have a problem here in iPhone SE, and then we have a problem in iPhone 4S. So how do we fix this problem? And the answer to this, it looks easy, but believe me, it's not that easy. There's something called auto layout. So when you click, you select the object that you want to work with on the screen. And here, you have different alignments that you can do. For this object, we want it to be centered in the middle, horizontally and vertically. So what you can do, you can say, I want it to horizontally align it and vertically align it. And then you can click on Add to Constraints. What happens, it'll add the constraints here, so you can see these constraints. Okay, here is my constraints for that object, for that label. And here on the screen, it updates the screens. So what you can do here now, you need to update the layout, the screen. So in the past, this used to be here, but now with iPhone Xcode 8, you can do here and say, click on Update Frame to see what the new look is going to look like. All right. Now notice it can fit this app on the same in the screen, so you're okay. Now it can fit this label on in the screen, so you don't have to have multiple lines, but you can still do it if you want to. You can see now, look, this is iPhone 5 SE, and this is iPhone 4. All right. So we're okay. It looks a little bit better than before, and this is how it's going to look if you do a portrait. You can see if you select different device, it's still centered. All right. So that is the auto layout. Now to test it, how do you test this app? Well, to test it, you can run it in here. You see this? You see you have iPhone 5, you're testing it on iPhone 5. You can actually do iPhone 6 if you want and run it. Remember, this is only the launch screen. So the launch screen, this is your simulator. The launch screen appears for a second or a fraction of a second and disappears and take you to the main storyboard. So this is my launch screen, disappeared and took me to the main storyboard. In the main storyboard, you can do things differently, of course. You need to add, you know, this is our conversion, so we need to add buttons and labels and so forth, okay? I'm gonna stop this video because it's getting too long anyway, and then we'll work with the launch screen or the main store in the next video, the main storyboard in the next video.